What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and continue learning about how Tim Hortons ruined its brand. Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, feel free to go check that out first, or stay here in Part 2. That's perfectly fine as well. But from what I understand so far, Tim Hortons is insanely popular in Canada. But according to many people, apparently it has gone downhill. Everything is worse, the quality is bad, and in part 1, we learned that Tim Horton, a hockey player, actually created the chain, and despite his untimely death, Tim Hortons still became very, very popular in Canada due to many things like good coffee and Timbits, roll up the rim, I learned about. So today, I'm excited to learn more about this sort of tragic story of Tim Hortons, the dying brand. So let's take a look.
As Tim Hortons entered its peak years, it became obvious that this wasn't just another coffee shop chain. It was turning into a true Canadian icon.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, Tim Hortons was growing at a rapid speed. It felt like every small town and big city across Canada had its own Tim Hortons.
Wow.
And people quickly made it a part of their daily routine.
Wow. Yeah, I was talking about this in part 1. How most Americans have never heard of Tim Hortons. So it's difficult for me to have a grasp of how popular Tim Hortons really is in Canada. But from everything I've heard so far, they're everywhere. They're insanely popular. It almost sounds like McDonald's in the United States, where there's just one everywhere, like miles apart or something.
Tim Horton Donuts have baked up another fresh idea.
Oh.
Introducing Strawberry Tim Tarts.
Oh.
A flaky tart shell brimming with rich, smooth custard nestled with fresh glazed strawberries.
Is this technically one of those butter tarts? Yeah, actually, that's a Canadian snack. I actually tried in a different video that I did. Butter tarts. They were really good. Like, really good. Those don't exist in the United States. I forgot about them, honestly. But this is making me hungry. So that's on the Tim Hortons menu. There's just Tim Hortons. Yeah, another thing I was thinking about is what is the equivalent in America? Like, I think some people say Dunkin' Donuts, but a lot of Americans don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. I don't. I can't remember the last time I went, and there's not that many of them comparatively to like McDonald's, which are everywhere, or I guess Tim Hortons in Canada. So I don't know if America really has anything equivalent to Tim Hortons for Canada.
Come and discover Tim Hortons' newest pastry treat everyone will love. Strawberry Tim Tarts. It's just one of the tasty Tim Tarts you can try at our place and
Tim Tarts.
take home for dessert.
Tim Tarts.
Tim Horton Donuts. Fresh from your friend along the way.
Wow.
The company's dominance in the Canadian market was undeniable. By the early 90s and early 2000s,
What, they got bread? They got soup? Like bread bowl soup? What doesn't Tim Hortons sell? What the heck?
Tim Hortons had completely outpaced its competitors, including McDonald's, becoming the go-to spot not just for coffee and donuts, but for full meals too.
Wait, is this true? Is this still true? Tim Hortons has outpaced McDonald's in Canada for what, like coffee? Caffeinated beverages? Yeah, coffee. And look at this pie chart. It's by a lot. It's not even close. Yeah, in America, most people get McDonald's, Starbucks if you're being fancy and expensive. But other than that, I guess there's some Americans who do get Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I suppose they're out there. And other than that, it's kind of random coffee shops. But in Canada, 75% of people, or at least Tim Hortons has 75% of the market share of selling coffee. That puts it in a whole different perspective of, like, okay, Tim Hortons is popular in Canada. No. It's popular in Canada. What?
Its influence was so strong that many Canadians couldn't even imagine their communities without a Tim Hortons nearby.
Really?
You just want somewhere to go that's relaxing, have a good cup of coffee, just see people that you normally see. There's nothing like coming to Tim Hortons, especially.
So, wow, I've never heard anyone get this passionate about McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever in America. So, it's not just a coffee place. Well, it's obviously got a lot of more snacks and food too, but it's like a way of life. It's a atmosphere. You go there to like chill out. A lot of people go to Starbucks with their laptop or whatever to actually hang out there. I heard they had to stop letting people just hang out at Starbucks if you're not buying anything. Now you have to buy something because so many people just want to hang out at Starbucks, I guess. Is that like Tim Hortons? You go and sometimes you get the coffee and go, or maybe they have a drive-through, but a lot of times you actually want to sit down and be there. That's pretty cool.
Our regular ones where they actually know and they ask us how we are and how we're doing.
Wow.
Actually, we're pretty lucky. Like at this Tim Hortons, I come here on Tuesdays actually. They come up and they go, okay, regular, and we've got one girl, she'll go, one large triple cream, and she'll say 2 with milk.
The brand had grown.
They actually know you. Is this true? Well, this video is supposed to be about the downfall of Tim Hortons. So, is this still true to this day? Do the workers actually know your name, know your order? That's incredible. I have not achieved that in my personal life yet. That's a lifelong goal, to go somewhere enough where they know me and they know my order. Actually, there was one time in college where I visited the same Burger King so much they knew my order, but I'm not particularly proud of that.
Grown far beyond its humble beginnings, becoming an essential part of everyday life in Canada. A place where memories were made and a sense of community was nurtured.
Yeah.
Whether it was through their iconic roll-up-the-rim-to-win contest or the simple joy of a few Timbits.
So this is how it used to be, I think. Because everything they're saying so far is very, very positive about Tim Hortons. And this is about the ruining the Tim Hortons brand. So this is how it used to be?
Tim Hortons found a way to connect with people like few other brands could.
Wow.
As Tim Hortons solidified its role as a cornerstone of Canadian culture, the brand sought out strategic partnerships to fuel its growth.
Okay.
One of the most significant moves came in 1995 when Wendy's International Inc. acquired Tim Hortons in a $425 million USD deal.
What year? Wendy's? Wendy's purchased Tim Hortons? I didn't know Wendy's had enough money. $450 million. I'm surprised it's not more. Like that Tim Hortons isn't a $1 billion company? Wait a minute. When was this?
One of the most significant moves came in 1995.
1995? Wow, that's like 30 years ago.
When Wendy's International Inc. acquired Tim Hortons in a $425 million USD deal.
Okay. Isn't Wendy's owned by someone else? Or Wendy's bought Tim Hortons? Why don't they have Tim Hortons at our Wendy's in America then? They should do that so we can, I don't know, maybe they shouldn't because apparently it's all terrible now. I don't even know.
This acquisition was intended to be mutually beneficial, allowing both brands to share resources and optimize their business models.
Okay.
Wendy's, which saw most of its customers during lunch and dinner hours, had unused seating during breakfast, while Tim Hortons had steady morning traffic, but slower lunch and dinner periods.
So Tim Hortons is really a breakfast spot. That makes sense, like any coffee shop. So what were they thinking? That they were going to have Tim Hortons and Wendy's be the same place? I don't know, but like who wants to go to Tim Horton Wendy's? Like, you guys must have Wendy's in Canada. So were they just going to put a Tim Hortons in all of the Wendy's or what?
The idea was that by sharing locations, they could maximize their profits and make better use of their spaces throughout the day. This led to the creation of co-branded locations, where Wendy's and Tim Hortons operated side by side under the same roof.
Okay.
These shared spaces, which can still be found today, were meant to increase efficiency and draw customers at all times of day by offering both breakfast and lunch-dinner options.
Okay.
However, the partnership didn't unfold as smoothly as planned. Former Tim Hortons marketing executive Ron Buist highlighted the resistance from franchisees who were determined to keep the two brands separate. Franchisees even refused to allow Wendy's to sell Tim Hortons coffee in their shared locations.
Wow. So Tim Hortons is a franchise. You can open your own Tim Hortons location? I could open one. Right where I am. I could open one in America. Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe not, because I can't tell if this is really a failing brand or not. It sounds like it's still popular in Canada. It's just that people think it's bad compared to how it used to be. But that's interesting that the franchisees, the owners running the Tim Hortons individually, I guess just didn't want like a Wendy's attached to them. So.
Additionally, Ron Joyce, co-founder of Tim Hortons, openly criticized the merger, calling it a mistake.
Wow.
It became clear that merging two brands with such different identities and customer bases was far more challenging than expected.
True.
By 2006, the tide had shifted. While Wendy's was struggling, like many other fast food burger chains, Tim Hortons was thriving and generating substantial profits.
Oh. Wait. So it's still, even after all that, it's still doing fine?
Chains, Tim Hortons was thriving and generating substantial profits.
Okay.
Recognizing
it's because of these hats. That's why. It's just another reason, because of these cool hats that the workers have to wear.
The brand's success, Wendy's opted to spin off Tim Hortons, taking advantage of its peak value to make a profit. This decision ended their direct partnership and allowed Tim Hortons to regain its independence and continue growing on its own.
Okay.
Although the merger was initially intended to benefit both parties, it ultimately underscored how difficult it is to merge two brands with distinct identities.
Yeah.
In the end, the separation allowed both Wendy's and Tim Hortons to refocus on their strengths and better serve their respective customers.
So, Canadians out there, do you remember this dark period in Tim Hortons? Like 30 years ago when they were combining Wendy's and Tim Hortons for... Man, they really didn't think this through. Like, we heard the rationale, like lunch food and with breakfast food in the same place. It's not the stupidest thing I ever heard, but yeah, what a fail. Now it's shut down.
The Wendy's merger marked a pivotal moment in Tim Hortons' history, signaling the beginning of significant changes.
Signaling the... Okay, are we finally... I feel like it's the Wendy's merger that signaled the beginning of the end? Is this where things started to get bad? Did it all start with the Wendy's thing?
Although Tim Hortons eventually regained its independence after parting ways with Wendy's, the experience exposed the company to the complexities of operating within a larger, global business structure. This brief period set the stage for future transformations, as Tim Hortons began to navigate pressures beyond its Canadian roots. Fast forward to 2014, and Tim Hortons faced another turning point with its acquisition by 3G Capital, a Brazilian private equity firm. This was part of an $18 billion merger with Burger King, forming one of the world's largest fast food conglomerates under...
What is this? What? merging with Burger. Didn't they learn from the last time? So years later, they're now merging with Burger King, or it's all under this RBI Brazilian thing? What? Let's listen to this one more time. Hold on. This is weird.
Began to navigate pressures beyond its Canadian roots. Fast forward to 2014, and Tim Hortons
Okay.
faced another turning point with its acquisition by 3G Capital, a Brazilian private equity firm. This was part of an $18 billion merger with
18 billion. Yeah, when Wendy's bought it, they paid like 500 million. Now it's 18 billion. That makes more sense to me. Tim Hortons really found its market share there.
Burger King, forming one of the world's largest fast food conglomerates under Restaurant Brands International. But this
So this RBI owns Burger King, Popeyes. We have a couple of those. Firehouse Subs, we have one of those. Tim Hortons, they own Tim Hortons, but we don't have any Tim Hortons though. But it's all okay. Got it.
was more than just a big business deal. It marked a critical moment for Tim Hortons. A brand that had always been a symbol of Canadian culture was now under the control of a global company known for its aggressive cost-cutting measures and relentless pursuit of profit.
True. Just from a, I don't know, moral standpoint, I don't know. I don't necessarily expect restaurant corporations to be moral or that they're too concerned about the ethics of it all. But I don't know, from a principle standpoint, this was a Canadian company, Canadian made by Tim Horton, a Canadian hockey player. You can't get more Canadian than that. It's kind of sad to see them selling it out of Canada, and it's just becoming like another part of some random corporation owned by the world or Brazil or whatever. That's kind of sad, but not shocking if they're just like trying to make money.
This shift introduced Tim Hortons to new global pressures, which ultimately moved it further away from its original Canadian identity and values.
Oh boy.
3G Capital made a significant move when it acquired Burger King in 2010. Known for prioritizing efficiency and maximizing profitability, 3G Capital built its reputation through a strict, zero-based budgeting strategy, an approach where every expense must be justified from the ground up each year.
Okay, is this the beginning of the end? I didn't even know Burger King got purchased by RBI. There was no uprising in America over that. Were people like concerned? This was 2014. It's been 10 years. When they were bought by RBI with this super capitalistic, like zero-based budgeting process where every expense must be scrutinized. And it's like, but we lose a little money because we have good customer service, and sometimes we cook more bagels than necessary. And it's like, no, there must be no extra Timbits at the end of the day. Each expense must be justified. Like, is this the beginning of the end? Actually, I don't know, but I think this is a good place to stop. We're halfway through this little documentary here. Again, this is by the Jake Standard. Just want to give him some credit. He's the channel who created this really interesting Tim Hortons brand documentary. I'm learning a lot about Tim Hortons, both the good and the bad. And as an American who's never experienced it in real life, this is really interesting for me. It's like I'm getting caught up on a lifetime of Tim Hortons drama. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on Tim Hortons and all these weird acquisitions and the quality, and that'd be really cool to hear from Canadians out there about this, and especially if you lived through this time period. And if you're interested in part 3 of this series, where I will continue to watch this, or just more videos in general of me learning and reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.